funny is when you talk about Eastern Europe, you hear all these stories about how Eastern Europe is like the promised land of girls and all this kind of thing. And it's half true and it's half completely false. I think a lot of the guys, especially on Twitter, who are semi in the dating space, etc., and they talk about Ukraine all the time, a lot of them are truthfully low-level dudes going to bang low-level girls. That's the absolute reality. The idea that you're going to go to Ukraine and get a 10 out of 10 beauty queen with $100 in your pocket is a lie. It's a lie, because there's mob bosses, there's big money, there's big G's everywhere in the world, right? So you're not just going to rock up in one of these countries as a nobody and pull it off. Status is important everywhere. Game's important everywhere. And are there more girls who overall are more traditionally minded? Yeah, I'd say so. But also, if you're a bitch, you're a bitch as a dude,
right?
Like, and that's the truth. And unless you're going to go to Colombia for $10 girls or Thailand, then you're going to need some game. Those are the only two places on the planet you're not going to need any game. Eastern Europe is the same deal, man. Like I live in Bucharest, Romania, and there's Lambos, there's Raris. You go to the club, there's bottles popping. It's all going off. You can't just turn up and be a dork.
The biggest contrast you would say between these Miami chicks here, right? Because it's arguable that we have the hottest girls here in Miami in the United States versus Ukrainian women. What's the biggest takeaway you would say distinction?
If I had to make my distinction, and you guys might disagree with me, I'd say there's a bunch of beautiful women in Miami. They're definitely easier to sleep with, but they'd be harder to retain. And that's because the ideals that's instilled in their mind are less congruent with a relationship, right? So if you get with a Ukrainian woman, you say, look, you don't have male friends. You don't go anywhere with guys. She's like, oh, of course. Like to them, that's normal. Whereas over here, they'd be like, oh, but he's my friend. I only fucked him once, and all this sort of crap, right? So it's just that different mindset. Overall, there's definitely a bunch of hot chicks here. There's a bunch of hot chicks there. I wouldn't even say one's that much easier to get than the other, but Waller just nailed it. The reason they all sent him a happy birthday is if you make an impression on a girl in Eastern Europe, they'll remember you.
Right.
Whereas if you make an impression on a girl in Miami, you got 48 hours and then your history.
That good impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
What about you, Joe? What's your take on the difference between the two?
He's dead on.
Okay.
He's dead on. Like, they pick the same way, but that girl in Eastern Europe, it's just a better breed of girl. It's like, it's what
the appreciation is there.
Yeah. Are you gonna mold something from dirt, or are you gonna mold it from diamonds?
Bam.
And it's the quality of the girl you're molding. You know.
And what I've noticed from like Western women in general is they want you to, stick to your masculine roots, be a gentleman, open the door, be confident, authoritative, dominant, be a leader, etc. All these things, but they want to absolve themselves of their traditional feminine responsibilities, which you guys were discussing earlier. And that's why I've always said, I tell guys in the West, a woman has to earn chivalry from you. You know what I'm saying? It's not just given. Whereas like in Ukraine, you could potentially just give it because she's a feminine woman off rip, but these women aren't necessarily feminine here in the West. They're traditionally feminine, which I always laugh because by that logic, well, let me just wear a dress and a skirt and say, hey, well, act masculine when you act feminine. That's kind of the logic Western women operate on. And being a nice guy here punishes you versus being a nice guy there, obviously, while still maintaining frame, being attractive, being dominant will actually get you somewhere versus here, you tend to get punished for doing shit like that.
Do you think women respond more to like dark triad traits here in the West
Absolutely.
as opposed to
I think so.
outside of the outside?
Yeah. And we say build a woman for a reason because every single woman, no matter whether she's from Poland, Ukraine, or the United States, is built. You do not find good women. The idea you're going to go out there and just stumble upon some perfect creature, that's a fallacy. And that's a fallacy you need to remove from your mind instantly.
Yes, you build a good relationship, you do not find it. It's not, there's no such thing as a turnkey relationship.
Correct. Absolutely. You have to build it, and that means you have to be man enough to build one, right? That's just the reality of it. So all these people who are out there constantly looking for a girl who behaves perfectly. And I've heard some stupid advice from a bunch of other people. I don't want to say names. I had some guy with a blue check mark message me on Twitter, and he's like, look, I'm trying to find a girl who understands to behave right, and I'm trying to find a girl who's done the self-work and is introspective and has been to therapy and understands. I was like, bro, I don't know what planet you're on. You can't even get a girl who's hot. Let alone a girl who's hot and been to therapy and is going to listen to a dork like you. That's the reason girls aren't listening to you is because you're a nerd, right? That's the reality of it. If you want a good relationship, you're going to have to build a good relationship. And females aren't stupid. For you to be authoritarian, for them to look it up to you with authority, you have to show some competence. They're not going to completely bend over and comply with you just because you have a dick